Okay, now my next tip, and this tip is very important. If you're ordering product boxes, you will need to send them a sample of your product so that it fits exactly inside of the boxes. I did this mistake. I ordered it. When I received it, it did not fit. Hola mi gente bella y bienvenidos a mi canal. My name is Sandra if this is your first time here, and welcome to my channel. In this channel you'll be learning and I'll be speaking about everything high-end or luxury candle making business tips. So without any further ado, let's get into the video. As you can tell by the title of this video, we'll be discussing a beginner's guide to Alibaba, 20 helpful tips. And these tips are things that I have used, things that I have found out on my own, and things that I will be sharing with you all today. And I will be making sure to put a timestamp of each of these 20 tips so that if you want to skip through the video, you can do that. So, tip number 1, familiarize yourself with the app and the website. Know what is your trade assurance rights, the vendor ratings, their certificates, and their MOQ. Now, the trade assurance rights, those will be something that you'll have to read on your own because it's a lot. And basically is knowing what you should do as a customer and what you should be expecting from a supplier on Alibaba. Your rights guides you into knowing what is acceptable and not acceptable between you and the actual supplier. Know your vendor ratings. The vendor ratings, meaning the little gold stars, the little icons that you see on their next to their names. Know their ratings, and all of those ratings are on the actual website, and it'll guide you into what it is that each of those means. Know that each vendor on Alibaba may or may not have certificates. Now, those certificates all depends on how trustworthy that particular company is, and if they have already went through some type of verification process, and I'll get that into a moment. Now, know your MOQ. Your MOQ means minimum order quantity. Not all of the suppliers have a very high MOQ, but you are going to find suppliers that if you don't have that MOQ, you will not be purchasing from them because they have a certain amount of inventory that they must meet in order for them to actually start production for you. Now, my tip number 2 is know what is gold versus verified icon. Now, actually, you have 3 tiers. You have the regular tier, you have the gold tier, and then you have the verified tier. The regular tier is where all of the vendors will lie, and that is that they just apply to become a supplier on Alibaba. Now, the next tier up will be the gold tier. The gold tier is where they actually pay extra to be a member of Alibaba, and they have more perks. And now, once they become a gold member, then they could go ahead and I believe it's some sort of time frame that they go from gold, and then they could go up and apply to be verified. Now, the verified icon is where the company themselves, pay a third-party supplier to actually go through a series of checks for to make sure that they are in compliance with Alibaba, and that gives them a level of trust between other customers just like me and just like you. Tip number 3, manufacturer versus trading company. And the manufacturer company is where we want to do business with. Although the trading company is also a good alternative, however, a trading company usually doesn't specialize in all the items that you are actually looking for. A trading company is usually like a company that has several items, you could consider them as a general store versus the manufacturer, which is a specialized store for just one or two items, or they produce one type of item, such as if they make glass, they will make glass jars, glass cups, glass bowls. So that will be a manufacturer. Now the trading company, they'll be selling glass cups, then they'll be selling yoga pants, then they'll be selling cameras, then they'll be selling lighting. So a trading company is just a general store versus the manufacturer that sells one particular item. So why would you want to do business with a manufacturer versus a trading company? Now the trading company, like I said before, they specialize in, not specialize, but they have many other items in their stores. So they might have higher prices than a manufacturer, because what they're doing is purchasing from the manufacturer and then reselling it to you. Now, if you're purchasing from the manufacturer themselves, the pricing might be cheaper and it might be in your best interest, because that item might be better than buying it from the trading company. So that's what you have to do, your own research. Now, my tip number 4 is have your design and logo ready. Whenever you are going to be purchasing or actually looking into purchasing from Alibaba or any other big wholesale store, make sure that you already have your logo in hand, because they're going to be asking you if you're going to be putting your logo on your actual products. And if you are and you don't have a logo, then you're going to be wasting their time, and you'll be wasting your time as well, because then if you want them to do the logo, to me it's not beneficial for them to do it, because that's not their expertise. Their expertise is whatever you're going to be purchasing. So I suggest that if you are going to be purchasing in bulk and in wholesale, then you should always get your logo ready and everything that you need in order for your product to be exactly what you want before you even go to Alibaba and locate and research and communicate with an actual vendor on Alibaba. Now my 5th tip is to communicate with more than one supplier. Why? Because the first supplier that you might do business with or trying to do business with might not be the supplier that you and them actually, mesh and have a good communication with. Sometimes they take way longer than expected to communicate with you, and you waiting around on them might not be beneficial for you, especially if you are on a time crunch. So what I recommend for you is to actually communicate with 2, 3, or 4 or more than that suppliers, because you can also shop around and see the quality of their prices, the quality of their actual items, and compare prices between suppliers. If you saw my previous video, you'll see that I had actually done that, and you could actually compare the prices, what they give you, to US prices if you're in the United States. Okay, now my tip number 6. Now that you found a actual supplier, now your communication with them has to be clear, concise, and straightforward. Not writing a whole entire paragraph about your business name, how you found them, and what your message is in your business. Don't do that. You don't have to do any of that. All you have to do is tell them exactly what you want, what you need, and be straightforward with them, because most of the time what they use to read your message, if they can't be exactly understanding of what you're trying to say, then what they do is use a translator or a translating app, and they will put your actual wording or whatever you said in that message into that translator, and then whatever you say comes out exactly how you wrote it. And if it doesn't make any sense to them, they're going to be confused, and the translation in between what you want and what they can provide to you will be lost. So it's very, very important that you are very clear, concise, and straightforward when you are communicating with vendors on Alibaba. Now, my 7th tip is to know the units of measurements that you are going to be using, because whatever you're going to be using, I use inches here in the United States. They do not use inches, they use millimeters. So I have to be able to convert between units, because I'm not familiar with their unit of measurements. And although they are familiar with ours, I am not with theirs. So every time they tell me one of their units of measurements, I actually have to be able to convert that back into my units, so that I could be able to tell them exactly what I want, and to make sure that the sizes that I said is exactly what they understood. So make sure that you use the proper units of measurements, and to elaborate on the units that you are using. So if you just put 4, you have to make sure that you're using inches, centimeters, millimeters, ounces, or whatever it is, so that they know exactly what units of measurements you both are talking about. Now, my 8th tip is describe to the T exactly what you want, and have pictures with your actual request. If you don't have the pictures right away, you could always take the picture somewhere or take it from the internet, because pictures speaks louder than your words. You know, they give you a better understanding of what it is that you want and what it is that they are actually going to provide to you. So have pictures and explain exactly what you want. So my 9th tip is ask for samples, and ask for how much are the samples. Never skip out on asking for samples, and do not order anything without asking for samples, because if you don't have the actual products in your hand, how do you know the quality of the actual product? It might look good online, but when you receive it, it might have some sort of imperfections. Maybe it didn't work as you thought it was going to work, or it was not exactly what you thought it was. So ask for samples. Even if that sample might be a little more than the actual product, get that sample. And oftentimes you could deduct the sample price from the actual product if you are going to order from them. And now this moves on to my 10th tip. And on my 10th tip is, when paying, use either PayPal if available for you, or use your credit card. Do not use TT or wire transfer, because that is way too much information for you to give them when you give them wire transfer, which is bank-to-bank transfer. And also, if you are going to dispute any claims with Alibaba, then your money is lost, because what Alibaba does, when you make any payments through Alibaba, then they hold that money before they release it to the actual company that you are paying them. And once the transaction is complete, once you receive your actual item, then they release that money to them. And that is how you get protected, and that's why you should always read the trade assurance information, so that you know exactly what are your rights. So make sure that you read that, and when you're paying, do not use wire transfer. My 11th tip, don't pay for the entire order. Always give a deposit, then wait for them to provide you an actual visual representation of the sample, and then have them ship it to you so you can actually touch it, feel it, and play with it, so you can have a better understanding of what it is that they provided to you, and so that you'll know exactly what you're going to receive when mass production is actually complete. And also on that very same note, it's when a video conference will be beneficial in order for you to see the actual product. I know I had did this when I was ordering my boxes. She showed me an actual picture and then a video, and then we were in conference through WhatsApp, and we had I had seen the actual box before she was able to ship the boxes to me, so I could see the quality on the actual products. But I had already ordered a sample, but I wanted to make sure that all the other products that she had already produced was actually the same material, the same quality as the actual sample. And in that note, do not communicate through WhatsApp because trade assurance will not support your claim. So once you are actually communicating with them, the beginning stages, way before you even make any paper transactions, any contract with them, do not communicate through WhatsApp. It's not going to be good for you, and is going to only benefit them. If there is something that happened throughout the communication process where you had said one thing and then they thought it was another, and then they supplied the products to you and it's not exactly what you wanted, but you don't have an actual message or thread back and forth about what it is that you wanted. So everything should stay within the app unless you are completely finished with the transaction and you want to see a video conference with them. So that's the only way that you'll be able to, or beneficial to, move out of the actual app and go into any other app if you're using a video conference for your products. And on that note, Alibaba backs up their supplier versus the customer, which is sad, but it's true. So although they try to work with you as the customer and with them as a supplier, 9 times out of 10 they will side with the supplier. And the only way that they will actually side with you as the customer is if the item was broken, the item did not perform as expected, and even then it's very, very rare that they'll side with you, because it already happened to me. And also if the product was never received by you. In those circumstances, then the situation changes, and even then you'll probably not get your entire money back through them. You'll probably get a percentage based on what it is, the information, based on the transactions between them, Alibaba, and you. So my tip for you, and that is why you should never use the wire transfer, is if you use your credit card or PayPal, you can always start a dispute through them and they'll give you your money back and you just return whatever it is, or if you never received it, then you'll get all your money back. So that's why you should always protect yourself. Use your credit card or PayPal in order for you to be able to start a claim with those two, and not through Alibaba, because sometimes they might not even side with you. My next tip is for you to ask for an itemized invoice before you pay, because they might tell you the price is $100, and then where did that 100 come from? It could have been that they're pricing the item at $90 and then they're giving you all these other fees. So my tip for you is ask for an itemized invoice before you pay, so you know exactly what you're paying for, and so that if you do look at the actual itemized invoice, you can see if they're charging you for import fees, their transaction fees, or any other fees that you might be a little wary about. Then ask for an itemized invoice. Then ask for pictures of their product to confirm what they have is exactly what you want. So pictures are very good, because sometimes most of the sites, vendors on the sites actually copy each other's listing. So one listing would be this one, but then when you actually see the picture of it, it's completely different from what they actually have on their inventory. So yes, ask for pictures of the actual product to confirm that they have what you want. Also, my next tip is ask them if they're going to include extra items in your shipment, just in case if something happens. And this is something that usually they do, because whatever they're producing it in mass amounts. So usually there's extra things that is left over, and they're not going to give it to someone else, especially if it's customized. So they'll just add it over to your actual order, and then you could always ask if they're going to include extras just in case. And most of the time they do include them in there, but just ask just to make sure. Okay, now my next tip, and this tip is very important. If you're ordering product boxes, you will need to send them a sample of your product so that it fits exactly inside of the boxes. I did this mistake. I ordered it. When I received it, it did not fit. And it was not too bad when it was the bigger version. Like if it was too big for the actual product, it was worse because I ordered something and it was too small for the actual box. So then I had to reorder the actual boxes. And this time I actually sent the product over to her so she could measure it completely so it could be exactly what I wanted. And for the other products, I had to get inserts and actually have them put it in there so that it could actually fit in the boxes during shipping. So make sure that you send them a sample of your product regardless of how much shipping is. You will be hurt in the long run if you don't do that, just like me. Learn from my mistake. Now the next tip is, if they call you dear, don't take it as an insult. It's just a phrase of endearment. They all actually use that. I know at the beginning when I was speaking to them, it does sound kind of condescending, but that's how they speak and that's how they actually communicate. So don't take the word dear as a word of an insult. It's to them, it's just how they talk. So, and tip number 19 is count your items once you receive them. I know, especially if you're ordering like 10,000 things from them, count every single one, because you never know. If you don't count them, then how do you know you have exactly what you ordered? Especially you have to go through inventory control so that you actually make sure that every single item that you receive is in good condition. If not, then you could always relay that information to them, and usually they're not going to send you this one item if it's actually one item that it did not come out good. They will actually give you a credit on your next purchase from them. So that's their way of having you to come back to them. So I mean, that's what they do. And then if you did not ask for extras, then that might be a negative on your part, because then you're missing one out of your 10,000 items. So now you're left with 999,000. So don't do that. Just make sure that you're ordering from them, count whatever you receive, go through every single thing, and always ask for extras so that you know exactly what you have, and you have extras anyways, because if it didn't come exactly how you wanted, at least you have others that could supplement for the one that broke, for the one that didn't come right, or whatever. Now my last tip, and this is, be patient, because they're in a different time zone. And I know being patient is kind of hard because here in Miami, we're in completely 24-hour difference. So when it's daytime here, it's nighttime there, and sometimes I fall asleep and I can't continue the conversation. So it is very time consuming to go back and forth with a completely different time zone. I know some of them do accommodate for your time zone, but not all of them. And the next important thing about being patient is to make sure that you know that shipping will take a very long time. Especially if you're in the United States and you are in the East Coast, because they're way on the other side, you know it's gonna take a long time. Primarily if you're doing shipping by sea. If you're doing shipping by air, it might take a little less time than shipping by sea. But with sea, it's between 30 to 45 days, or 45 to 50 days, or 60 days. It all depends how close the supplier is to the port, and how how much stuff you are going to be ordering. And if it's a very large quantity, then you're probably gonna have to be waiting for a while, and it's beneficial for you to use by sea because it's a lot cheaper than by air, which is more expensive. But if you're ordering a small item, then by air will be fine if it doesn't weigh as much, because it won't take as long and it won't be too expensive. But if you want your items now, then maybe Alibaba shopping is not for you, because you have to plan ahead of time, keep a schedule, and make sure that the items that you are ordering, you accommodate that time frame from the time that you research, the time you communicate, the time that they you get the sample, and the time that they produce the item is going in between your schedule, according to your schedule. By the time you need the actual item, that you will be able to make your candles or make the products and then sell the actual product. So you need to accommodate for the time frame that you are going to do all of that by the time you receive it. But if you need that item now, then maybe you might not be able to use Alibaba to source your items. So make sure that you know that shipping might take a while. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed all my 20 tips. And if you have any more tips for me, let me know in the comments down below if these tips are something that you already use, and let me know if it worked out for you, because some of them did work out for me. Actually, all of them worked out for me because I made mistakes, and that is how I know what to do in the process while I'm communicating with them. And then at times, sometimes I might forget one thing or two, but then, this video comes to mind. So if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, because all of that does help my YouTube channel, and it helps other candle makers find my video in the YouTube web. So until the next time, bye mi gente bella.